you're the person that is having a challenging time with understanding your human design chart, you want to understand the basic mechanics, you want to understand what you're looking at when you look at your chart and not just some regurgitated information that you're picking up from a second party.
You're about to discover what some human design experts do not want you to know, because it's bad for business.
You actually want to experience gnosis, which means direct knowledge of your human design.
By the end of this video, you will understand your chart in a way that no one else has explained it to you before.
This video is for you. I'm gonna share with you what human design actually is. You probably haven't heard anyone else talk about it like this, so that by the end of this video, you will have a general knowledge to know what you're actually looking at, and you wanna do some DIY understanding your human design chart. I guarantee you, by the end of this video, you will be able to do that.
This 4-part formula will transform how you understand your chart forever.
First and foremost, you have to understand, so what is human design? What actually is it? And I'm gonna tell you this analogy that is going to have it make perfect sense for you.
Huh?
And you might be like, questioning that, but that's okay, because I want you to actually take this information and see if it applies to yourself, because no one knows you better than you know yourself in your reality. I don't know you. I'm just gonna tell you the mechanics so you understand, okay? Cool. What is human design? So human design is a technology that's kind of like an operating system. We all have one of these because that's how you're interfacing with me, or you have a computer. What makes it interface so it looks all nicely intuitive in here? It's an operating system, right? We have Android, we have iOS. If you're on a computer, it could be Windows, it could be Linux, it could be Mac OS, it could be any of those. What does this have to do with human design, Windstorm? What the heck are you talking about?
This next principle changes everything.
Your consciousness, your conscious awareness is the software that comes into the physical form, which is the hardware. This is all hardware. Everything in the external world is hardware. Your consciousness is the software. So what is the thing that's gonna interface with this external world, and what's the little programming that you're gonna need? You're gonna need an operating system. You're gonna need an operating system to interface with this world. And that is essentially what human design is. It's an interface. Back in the day when Ra-Uru was still alive, and his original videos from 1995, he would say, "You have no choice." Okay, cool, great. Well, what that means is that, yeah, human design, your operating system is fixed. There is no choice. However, there is a spectrum of experience that you can experience within the operating system. So like you'll have Android or Mac OS or iOS or whatever. Instead of having just a couple of those options, we have 8 billion plus operating systems. However many people there are, that is that many different operating systems on the planet. Human design is essentially an operating system that your consciousness interfaces with for your soul to have lessons, for growth, to make different choices in this earthly experience while you're embodied. Because when you're embodied, that's when you have the opportunity for the most growth. And then you're able to have different options or choose your own adventure for your soul that will lead you into next lives, different incarnations. You do the inner work, you do some work to help your inner reality change your external reality, so then you do get bonuses for living in your external reality that you desire in this lifetime. And then also that opens up doorways and portals for you in alternate lifetimes as well, in the past and in the future. You can change everything in the now by being a different version of yourself and having different perspectives. And you can use human design to do that as a lens through which you perceive consciousness. What is the combination of human design? Well, it is the combination of astrology, the I Ching hexagrams, the Kabbalah or Kabbalah, also the chakras, and then also quantum physics. So that is what the operating system consists of. Have you ever tried using someone else's phone or computer? And then have you ever tried using, say, like a Mac OS on a computer, and then you try to use Windows and you try to use a PC? And I'm sure it's vice versa. You're slow. You don't know what you're doing on there. You don't know where to find anything. That's essentially what it's like when you're wanting to understand your own chart.
Here is what no one else will tell you about human design until now.
So from the beginning, it's gonna be a little slow, it's gonna feel a little clunky, it's just, you're gonna take in some information. It's essentially a practice. Like if you practice an instrument, if you practice yoga or qigong or tai chi or sports or meditation even, it's a practice. All those physical activities are practices for the body, but let's say that human design is a mental practice for your cognition, for your consciousness, for your awareness to be expanded upon and grown in this dimensional reality. So this is why it's important when you want to understand your own self and your own charts, and you want to understand the nuances within your own chart and then create a language for you that resonates with you. Human design readers are great. No shade to any of them at all. However, it's easy for you to understand yourself from a DIY perspective. I want you to understand, because that is the difference between knowing, which is book knowledge, second-party information, and gnosis, knowing deep in your bones how you're designed to be and live and expand out into this world. So the ultimate payoff of understanding your own human design chart and really diving deep into the little nuances is that you're gonna feel a sense of empowerment knowing this information. And then you're also gonna be able to watch your consciousness shift naturally from embodying and understanding this information, because one of the things that human design does incorporate is the Kabbalah or Kabbalah. And one of the cool things about Kabbalah is that it really is taking a perspective and having a different reaction to external circumstances, because knowing that you are the creator of your reality, you can have a different experience, so you're not negatively reacting to the external circumstances around you. You're not getting emotionally triggered, you're not upset, you're not creating stories in your head, you're not having some sort of ego projection, blaming the external reality. No, you are empowered to shift the reality inside of yourself because you realize that you are the creator of your reality, and then the external world magically changes. Benefits come to you. Things happen magically and synchronistically. So if that is what you want, then welcome to Holistic Human Design. I'm Windstorm, but you can call me Wind, and I'm here to help you understand your chart by heart so that you can live in alignment with your desired reality and manifest the life you desire. And that is essentially what I am here to offer you, because I have seen it happen in my own life, and transferring that knowledge over to you is my life's work. I love you guys. So now that we know what human design is, it's essentially an operating system for your consciousness and your soul to interface in this external reality for your own soul growth and expansion. Let's break down the mechanics one by one so that you can understand what the heck it is that you're looking at.
Notice this hidden pattern.
All right? I'm not gonna pull up the chart and be like, oh no, it's strategy and authority and profile. No. We're not doing that here. We don't do that here. My whole thing as an artist and a creative, I have to be original. That is a massive value of mine. Gotta actually take the information and share it in a new way, because that's the only way that you're going to get the most benefit out of someone who actually is embodying the information. Great. When you go get your chart, okay, so first and foremost, you put in your birthday, right? You put in your date, time, and location. Now, if you're like, I don't know my birth time, technically, it's harder with the arrows, but you can pretty much dial down a general time frame of where you were born based on how you naturally express yourself out in the world. Like, say for example, you're a 6'2" if you're born in the morning. You're on like the top of the hexagram, you're on the roof, you're a 6'2", but then, you know, later on in the day, you'll be 1'3". Well, there are different characteristics that you can definitely identify. So that's just an example. Now, we always see the body graph. We always see like the body map, the body thing. But where does the body thing, the body map come from?
This is where it will all come together.
Where does this come from? Well, it comes from the astrological wheel, the zodiac wheel, because the hexagrams have been planted on the zodiac wheel. Now, this was part of the direct transmission that Ra received from interdimensional beings. I don't know if it's ETs. I'm just gonna call them interdimensional beings because obviously some higher consciousness wanted to bestow upon Ra Uru Hu or Robert Allen Krakauer this information. And then what they discovered was that you have two of these wheels. One of them is your body, is when your soul comes down and embeds itself into the physical form, into the body, 6 months or 88 days prior to birth. Now you're like, okay, well, what about C-sections? Or no. It just depends on when your body and you took your first breath on this plane of existence, and then 88 days prior, that's where they decide your design and your physical body. That's your body's design. That's the design, that's the red numbers. It's the one on the left, okay? When you're looking at your chart, it's the one on the left. The right side is your conscious personality. That is what it comes out first based on your birthday, time, and location. So then the planets, however the planets were before at 88 days, that's those numbers, because the configuration of the planets will then create and light up the numbers. And you're like, well, how do I learn these numbers? Okay, well, we're gonna get to that. So when those numbers get lit up, that's what then transfers over to the body map. So that's where those numbers come from. Based on the date, time, and location, that's what Ra'u was part of the mechanics. It's mechanics. You have the time wheel, you have the zodiac wheel with the hexagrams, and then you have the body map. So then when you take those numbers that are lit up, both in red and black in your design, and then also your design is your actual physical body. People like to call it what's unconscious or subconscious. Your body has its own design. Your conscious mind has its own design. Now, the whole cool thing about doing this is that you can make the unconscious conscious through awareness and practice and self-realization. So then now we're gonna bring this over to the body map.
Watch closely, because this is a game-changing moment.
And the numbers from this time wheel are going to be lit up on your body map here. Red or black, it doesn't matter. So then you see and you start to connect the dots, okay? So then these will get lit up. Now, what are all these centers here? The centers are the chakras. And then the connection points are the channels, okay? So the connecting points are the connecting lines. They're roads, IHDS, or International Human Design. They call them highways. That's kind of like where the Kabbalah connections of the centers come in play. You have the whole chart. We have this entire thing here. We have the entire human design chart. The difference is whether or not it's consistently expressed or inconsistently expressed. Anything that is left white or blank or not colored in, that is inconsistently expressed. You will still experience those sometimes, but it's not gonna be something that you're always gonna have access to, or something that you're gonna share externally with the external world. Anything that's colored in and defined, that is consistent. That is something that is very familiar to you. They say, other human design schools of thought, if they're just like regurgitating information, they say that you'll amplify in the white and open centers, and your places of conditioning are in just like the white centers. Like the places of the undefined centers are places of learning and gaining wisdom. Yes, sometimes, but really the things that are also defined and colored in are consistently things that you learn and that you're learning to expand and grow within. Like, for example, if you have the channel of judgment, 1858, that channel right there, you're gonna find yourself that you can be extra judgmental and highly critical of things, which can come in handy, but you might be actually overly critical, and that's gonna be some shadow aspects for you to understand and to navigate, so that you might have opinions that you wanna share and be like overly judgy, but then you're like, is that really like benefiting me, or do I really wanna move into a level of acceptance? Themes of consciousness. Because the human design chart also contains multiple levels of consciousness within the chart. It's all embedded in here. It's all embedded in the operating system. Okay, so number one, recap really quickly. Zodiac wheel numbers light up the body map. The body map, let's say for example, you do have 58 and 18, and you have it in certain areas within the planets, because the planets are what make the numbers light up. So then you have this consistent energy. When it's consistent and it's defined, then the centers light up. That's what creates the definition. That's what lights up the centers. The numbers over here from the time wheel will end up lighting up the body map, and then that's what creates the consistent energy. If you're a reflector, I'm not one to really like labels, but let's just say that reflector, projector, any type of labels that you find within the human design linguistics, they're just definitions of a broader perspective. It's like a definition of a word, like apple. Okay, well, you know what an apple is because it's a round fruit that falls from a tree and you're harvesting it in fall. But you know what an apple is because that's what describes, so you don't actually have to do the description every time. So let's say you're a reflector and you don't have any numbers within your chart match the other numbers. Okay, well then that means that you're just very fluid in how you experience reality, and you're not gonna be entirely consistent 100% of the time in a certain area of the chart. But like, let's say that you have the channel of judgment lit up and you're a projector, you're gonna continuously have like the splenic authority and the root center defined and locked in, and that is gonna be a consistent energy for you. But you know what's really ironic? Traditional Chinese medicine or acupuncture, so as a splenic projector, my spleen is overworked the majority of the time. The spleen meridian is way overworked. They can see it in my tongue. And I'm like, wow, interesting. What's defined for me is overworked because I only have these two centers defined from the centers that are defined. So that's what makes the channels. Now, if you understand the gates as the hexagrams and the I Ching hexagrams and what those mean and the general themes of that, you can put the two gates together and come up with your own definition of what you think the gates mean. So the main thing is that if you understand the gates, which I have resources for, everything is in the description. So if you want to understand and deep dive in a really practical way to understand your gates in a fun and intuitive way that you can turn it into an actual practice with physical items, you got to check out HDOS in the link below to make your life so much easier if you're interested in human design. So now that we have the channels and then the centers light up, okay, so then what are the centers?
Here's where it gets interesting.
The centers are the 7 chakras divided from 7 into 9. Which ones were divided from 7 into 9? Well, what were the chakras? Now think about it this way. The 7 chakras, it's a line, right? It's a straight line up and down from the central column, one center column. If you look at the Kabbalah, there is one central channel and then you have one column of severity and then the other column of mercy. So the 7 centers, which are the chakras, got divided into 9 centers. Now, I'm not gonna be one to tell you, oh, we're the 9-centered beings. The 7-centered beings are so archaic. I'm like, I'm sorry. If you're gonna go into that school of thought and you're gonna have some sort of like elitist hubris of the 9 and the 7 centers, I'm like, you don't belong here. You need to just like exit out the door. Love you, bless you on your journey. Don't come over to this channel. Like, that's just totally ridiculous. Because if you actually took the time to study the 7 chakras and the themes within the 7 chakras, you'll see that between the heart chakra, the solar plexus chakra, and even the sacral chakra, there's some similarities that got divided into 2 extra centers. It's not like something became new. Ooh, it's like some new thing that didn't exist before. No, they just got divided into different areas. And I'm gonna go over those real quick for you to explain the split between the splenic center chakra and the emotional solar plexus chakra. And I'm gonna go over that real quick. That's coming. You're gonna get some. I'm sorry. If you know, you know where that comes from. First, let's go over the 7 chakras. So root, sacral, solar plexus, heart chakra, throat, ajna, crown. Colors of the rainbow. It's in everything. So root chakra, pressure to know. Root chakra 1 is like the very first chakra. It's the base. It's the foundation where everything is solid. The sacral chakra 1 + 1 = 2. So that's why they have you say, wait to respond if this center is defined, because you only respond to something that is external from you. So you have 1 responding to the external thing outside of you. It is such a potent sacral force. It is so incredibly strong and powerful. That's why 70% of the world population is a generator or generated, and think of it, it's generated. Generator, because like you just go. So you are literally responding to the world around you, because in the sacral chakra, it's 1 + 1 = 2. I and other, me and you, okay? That is where that origination comes from. If you don't have this defined, you're one of the other 3 types: a manifester, a projector, or a reflector. Okay, now we're getting into the fun part where the things start to split up.
This next part might shock you.
So if you're ever familiar with Anna Dea Judith or her chakra books, she even noticed that some psychics were perceiving the spleen as its own separate chakra within the solar plexus. So think about it. Solar plexus chakra, the spleen is literally right there next to your stomach. Wherever your stomach is, it's like literally, it's in this vicinity, okay? And then think about how much is going on in your torso. If something happens to your torso, you're dead, but you can live without arms and legs. You can live without arms and legs. I've seen it happen. It's amazing. But if something happens to your torso, if something happens with what's going on inside of your physical body in this area, oof, really hard, really challenging. Easy to, out. With so much going on here, and then in order to expand our consciousness outside of being a hunter-gatherer or survivalist human body, the solar plexus splits into 2. We have the spleen as an awareness center. We have a solar plexus emotional awareness center. Spleen, health, survival, instinct. I'm gonna tell you what is very instinctual, in the now, knowing in the now. I know how to be safe. I know what I need to do. It's very mechanical. It's very masculine even, because this is also the side of the body that's masculine. The laws of gender. It's just a part of the universe that we live in. There's 7 hermetic principles. Gender is one of them. There's masculine and feminine principles. That's just how it is. That's just the reality of the universe. Now that we have our survival mechanics, we're not like trying to kill and be killed. We've evolved. And then they say that the split happened around 1780-ish. Then we're moving into the emotional solar plexus. So then this is the emotional awareness center. Not necessarily truth in the now, but then there's like a fluctuation about what we're able to do in here. Now that we have our basic survival, unless like you want to just do the survival man thing, that's cool. But we have the basic necessities of life. So then we're able to expand, and we have the time and the space to explore what it means to be in the emotional solar plexus, and to engage in emotional intelligence, and to actually understand consciousness and wake up to who we are living in this existential plane, in this external existence. What it means from an internal existential point of view. So that's why there's 2 awareness centers down here in the body. The ajna is also an awareness center. I'll get to that here in a minute. So now that we know what the solar plexus is, now here's another thing that's really interesting. There's actually a little bit of the sacral chakra, because traditionally in the 7 chakras, the sacral chakra is technically emotional. So that information in the sacral chakra has also been migrated over into the emotional solar plexus. Fascinating. Who knew? So then let's move up to the heart chakra that's split into 2 as well.
This is where most people can get confused, but watch.
We have the ego, will center, earthly heart that really is prevalent within the go out hunting, because the survivalist culture, very earthly based. I also like to think that some of the will center, the ego will center, has some of the characteristics of the solar plexus chakra. So that's an easy way to understand that. And then you get to the G center, which is the higher heart chakra, the place where the soul resides. It's the place where the soul resides. It's the place where they say love and direction, whether it's defined or colored in or not. That's where the first 1 and 2 hexagram gates lie. You'll have the creative force. You'll also have the receiving gate 2. That also is known as the magnetic monopole. It just is one magnet. Think about it this way. Think of it as like a funnel right here at your sternum. And you're magnetizing reality to you based on what's happening internally in your consciousness. Amazing. It's amazing. Like you're receiving the cup. You're receiving that as the magnet. So that's why it's a magnet. It's only one-sided. And that's why reality comes to you. There's just so much intelligence in this because I see it so often play out in everyday life. You can't miss it. Once you know how to read the reality of how people express themselves and you know the ins and outs of how everything works. Phenomenal. It's phenomenal. All right, so now that we have that whole thing, so think about it, like so much is going on here. That's why everything got split into all these different sections. And then you move into the throat chakra. There's some motors that goes on, a motor channel to the throat, the channel of energy. That's what makes you a manifester, not having a sacral center defined. Projectors, you don't have a motor to the throat, but you have another option and you have another opportunity to express yourself. And projectors have a wide variety of combinations and configurations. There's a wide variety of types of projectors, and projectors can be expressed in so many different ways. And then we get to the ajna, which is an awareness center, and that is where the information from the cosmos comes in. You cognize what happens in your body from the universe, from higher consciousness to reality. And then in here, this is just the processor. It's not a place where you make decisions, even though external reality society likes to say, oh yes, this is where all reality, this is it. No, they're just missing bigger parts of the picture, which is what we are all about here at Holistic Human Design. We look at the world and modalities and schools of thought with a holistic lens. We don't just iron things out and just be like, oh, that's not, no. It's a whole perspective. We don't just like cancel out other cultures. Human design is just one piece of the puzzle. There's so much you can learn in order to expand yourself out into the external world, and so your soul can be embodied more here in the physical plane. And that's what we're all about here. And then lastly, we'll get to the crown chakra. And that is what the information, the pressure to know from the universe, where you get all your inspiration from, run it through your physical body. Now, I love this analogy to help understand the chakras. Okay, have you ever seen this from the 80s or 90s, or maybe this is just like a holy collective consciousness thing? But you know when you think of someone that's crazy, right? What do? You're like, yeah, whoa, they're crazy. Oh my God. You know, do this. What is this? What are we doing here? Look at this. Look at this. What is this? I'm going to show you something really quick. Check this out. You do this. It's because the thoughts are going around and around and around like a hamster wheel. You're not engaging your awareness and your consciousness through the rest of your body. You're designed to run your consciousness awareness through your entire energy centers. Bring your consciousness into the physical body. You can do that through yoga. You can do that through meditation. You can do that through Tai Chi. You bring your consciousness into different sections of your body and you gain information from there. You gain information so that you're not going crazy. You're delivering the awareness through the entire being so that you can have a more whole perspective and you can get off the mental hamster wheel that is not serving you ultimately. So that's why the benefit of running through the energy centers is so key.
Here is where everything changes.
And lastly, we're going to talk about the lines. Because I'm glad we covered the energy centers because it's the rainbow, it's like red, orange, yellow, green, blue, purple. And then the crown chakra, which goes up here. Because when we get into the lines, because we're going to circle back to the gates, this is where your profile numbers come from the top numbers. This is how you discover what your profile is. So let's say you have, I don't know, 58.6 or 52.6. And then on the other side, you'll have 18.2 and 17.2. The gates are the I Ching hexagrams. A hexagram is a combination of two trigrams. Tri, three lines. Hexagram is a combination of 6 lines. There's solid lines representing masculine principles. because there's the law of gender here in this universe. And then broken lines are female lines. Broken lines are female lines because think about how the general anatomy happens. That's just how it is, you guys. Broken line, chalice, masculine principle, straight line. It's just everywhere. It's perfect, okay? It's so intelligent. The intelligence of the universe is insane. Blown away every day. So what are the lines? What's the easiest way to understand how the lines are? Without like having to memorize, the easiest way to understand the lines is that from the bottom line to the top line, they match the chakras 1 through 6. They literally match the patterns of the chakras 1 through 6. First line, foundation line, root, chakra, foundation. Second line, second chakra, because then you'll see this in the arrows, because the arrows go into the layers of the lines. You'll see the pattern, however they decided to use the language. Just trust me on this one. It's like so clear as day. First line, right? Second line, second chakra. First line, root. Second line, second chakra. You're a natural, you're able to do things. You're just completely enamored with your own sacral space, and then people just see things and recognize you. First line, you need a solid foundation because you're insecure, because you're like, ooh, I just gotta lay a solid foundation. Need the solid foundation, I need to know. And that's what I'm doing essentially here. I'm laying a solid foundation because as a fifth line, 5-1, gotta have a solid foundation. Third line of the hexagram, third chakra. Alchemy, trial and error, mix and match. Ooh, experiment, because the third line, it's reaching up towards the fourth line, and there's this kinetic energy in here. And you're like, oh, I'm trying to get to the third, I'm trying to get to the fourth, I gotta experiment, I gotta test things out. That is the third line. That is like the alchemical process of the third line. And then solar plexus.
Pay attention to this next part.
Go out and do the thing, like, ooh, willpower, go experiment. Oh, I'm just gonna get out and do it. I'm not gonna think about it, I'm not gonna research, I'm just gonna try it anyways and see what happens. It's like the trial and error, and then like, you know what works, you know what doesn't, because you're like, oh, I'm just gonna do it anyways, I'll research it later. Whereas a first line, solid foundation, root chakra, needs to know ahead of time and likes to research and be like, before I do the third thing, I gotta understand what I'm getting myself into. Fourth line, heart chakra, networks, community, people, like, ooh, loving, small groups. What's gonna be the best here? Fifth line, communication, communicating. Throat chakra, fifth line, 5, you're a fifth line, you're universally concept. You want to distill information, break down a bunch of pieces so it's easier for people to understand. You want to universalize certain symbols through communication. Awesome. Sixth line, you're on the roof. Third eye chakra, you're at the top of the totem pole. Before you get into the first line again, you go recycling back around. You're at the very top, you have a broader perspective. You can see things, you're the role model. You're like, hey, I've reached enlightenment. But before you've reached 30, you've gone through a lot of trial and error of all the things that you've reminded yourself of, how the trial and error process is, because you're trying to break through to the upper trigram. You're trying to break through into the upper area of awareness. So then that's why it kind of stands alone, like the 6-3, the 6-2 kind of stands alone on its own. The fourth line is really prevalent, although other people will see the sixth line. So you're getting into the upper levels of enlightenment. And I'm sure everyone's like, well, what about the arrows? What about this inner architecture of the arrows? It's like,
This last piece is crucial.
yes. So the languaging within the arrows was only discovered and written by humans within later dates of this discovery. About 20 years later almost is when Ra finally started talking about the arrows and the inner architecture based on the patterns that they were discovering. There is some validity within the arrows, but I'm also gonna say don't take it as Bible, and if you need to rewrite or rephrase it or completely scrap the information that you read in the arrows, No one knows you better than you yourself. Do what works for you. This is not gospel, okay? Human design, even though some people like to say it, this is the only thing, this is the answer, this is everything you will need. I'm like, no, you have to have like a holistic perspective. It's only one part of the puzzle, and that's what we do here. Incorporating through the lens of human design so that you are empowered to understand yourself, understand where you're at in your consciousness levels, so that you can transform your inner reality that then is reflected to mirror back to you your external reality to create the desired reality that you wish to experience. So that is, in a nutshell, the basic mechanics. So then if you're asking yourself, well, where's the best way for me to learn how to understand my human design charts or understand the mechanics? That is where HDOS, Human Design Oracle System, Human Design Operating System, comes into play.
But wait, it gets better.
Because you have to understand, it's a combination of the gene keys written in a way that makes it digestible. Granted, thank you so much, Richard, for doing the work that you've done, but it took me forever to read your book. It took me at least 2 years to read that book word for word because I'd have to digest the information and think about it, and then I also wanted to translate it. HDOS, it has been distilled in a way that makes it easy for you to understand, and then it's also magically channeled information. I wrote the book, and I still have to reference my own book because I don't remember what was written all the time. And there's always a gem of wisdom that I gain from it. Then it also correlates with an oracle deck. Everything is in the link below. It's an excellent way for you to understand the themes of the gates and apply them to your life, because the best way to understand something is connecting the information to your neural semantic network of things that are already happening within your daily life so you can connect the dots. That's the easiest way to remember. This isn't math. We're not learning math. We're not learning numbers. Don't do flashcards or facts or just trying to memorize the thing. No. You have to understand the information by heart. That's the only way that you're gonna get the most transformation inside of yourself so that the external world is essentially what you want it to be. Magic, that's where the synchronicities and magic occur. You're able to manifest what you desire and what you want to do, and it works. If you've made it to the end of the video, welcome to the Holistic Human Design Club, where we're gonna be discussing so much more. I love you guys. I love you so much. Thank you so much for being here. If I haven't bothered you or triggered you yet, awesome. It's always a pleasure and honor to serve you and to give you any of the information that I have learned to make your life easier so that you can experience reality from a whole new level, because that's essentially what we're here to do, right? I mean, how many times are we gonna repeat the same lessons over and over again and not evolve? Come on, you guys, like, we wanna hop off the hamster wheel. We don't wanna keep doing that, right? We wanna integrate the whole thing. Amazing, phenomenal.
Whatever, do whatever you want.